Hello, everyone. This is Valasia Yakovoglu, the Director of Ecotourism Sector of UNESCO Chair Connect, and I'm very delighted to moderate the session, The Value of Ecotourism in COVID-19, at the international meeting organized by the Global Tourism Forum that is taking place in Jakarta, Indonesia. A very updated topic where I strongly believe that ecotourism posed a new era for the tourism sector, particularly under the COVID-19 situation. I'm going to start with ladies first, with Miss Odelia Diamoa. And we have also Mr. Fergus McLaren as my panelist and Mr. Alexandros Thanos. So Miss Odelia Diamoa is a journalist and the head of the Venus Programming Multimedia Group, Ghana's largest private media establishment. And she has more than 2 decades in her reporting field and cooperative media. And she was the former CEO of the Chamber for Tourism in Ghana. During her first 15 years of her career, she was selected as a distinct among hundreds of journalists in Ghana. And in 2009, she was handpicked to feature Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web. And she is the only female multiple awarded winner in West Africa. She also won the IVPL program with the U.S. Embassy in the United States. And that was a highly competitive program where Odelia was selected as the only Ghanaian candidate as a woman that represented. And with this, Odelia, I welcome you. And would you like to add something about yourself and your mission based on your more than 20 years of experience?
Okay. So like you have said already in the past, I just like to see myself being the voice and of course the face when you think of investing in any part of Africa's economy. I want my name to pop up anytime investors are looking for a key person in Africa to invest. And so as it currently stands, I'm really building on my connections across the globe and of course across Africa to make sure that this actually happens. And so I have also started a new program or a new project to take a look at how various investing organizations can actually find different parts of Africa to invest in. And I've been having conversations with different panels on various investment opportunities that currently exist. I'm speaking about investment because I know that when it comes to Africa's tourism, where the money really is not owned by Africans. And so from hotels to even the best resorts to the best locations to go to are all foreign owned. And so when people visit from different parts of Africa, or even when there's domestic tourism, you notice that African big businesses are not for Africans. And so there's that capital flight after the tourist activity goes on. So I'm very much interested in investment conversations and how money can be put in Africa by Africans and of course others to really promote and push the continent.
Very much related to ecotourism. Thank you, Odelia. And I'm going to move to the second panelist, Mr. Fergus McLaren. Is a sustainable tourism and cultural heritage management professional with more than 25 years of international experience, with much of his current professional focus involving tourism to World Heritage Sites and the implementation of the 2030 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. He is the principal of Macduff Tourism Heritage Planning and the president of the ICOMOS, the International Cultural Tourism Committee, and he serves in an expert capacity for multi-layered and international non-governmental organizations in the cultural heritage and tourism domain. I'm sure I didn't say enough, Fergus. Would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and your mission based on your more than 25 years of experience as an expert in the sector of tourism?
Many thanks, Valencia, and thanks. Nice to meet the other panelists as well. Great to meet you, Alexandros. Nice to see you again, Adelia, as well. I've had, as you mentioned, 25 years experience, and in fact, from 2001, 2003, I was a director of the International Year of Ecotourism. So certainly, I have a very sort of direct exposure and interest and involvement in that area as well, beyond cultural tourism. I've also worked in terms of protected areas, the movement towards culture and nature management of sites as well, and also with Indigenous peoples here in Canada as well as internationally. So many of the different areas that ecotourism touches and tries to benefit at the same time. I also concur with what Adelia said, in that there are many issues when it comes to linkages and ownership, whether it's in Africa, whether it's with Indigenous groups here in Canada, or in Asia or other parts of the world. And I think it's really important to find ways to both ensure the participation of local communities, but also the benefits that can be accrued by them as well, because this can only help to encourage economic and social sustainability, while hopefully at the same time, as in the case of ecotourism, maintaining the local environment and culture of these important biodiversity and other natural reserves that we have around us.
So nice to hear those words from you, Fergus. Really, thank you for sharing that information. And now from Canada, we're going to move to Europe. We have with us Mr. Alexandros Thanos, and he has many years of experience at the tourism sector. Currently, he serves as the head of tourism sector in the region of Central Macedonia of Greece. And for the period of 2016 to 2019, he was the Deputy Regional Governor for Tourism and Culture for the Central Macedonia of Greece. He also served as the Regional Counselor of Central Macedonia in matters of education, development, and the environment. And he holds an MBA in business administration from the Kingston University, specialized in strategic company development. With this, I want to welcome Alexandro. Would you like also to add something about yourself and your mission based on your many years of experience in the sector of tourism?
Thank you very much for the invitation. And of course, my name is Thanos Alexandros, and I'm, as you told, the head of tourism sector in the region of Central Macedonia, Greece. And in the few recent years, I have been working on the strategic development of tourism in my region, and the tools that the region must develop to increase its tourism footprint. Also, as you know, our region, Central Macedonia, it's one of the best region in the tourism industry. We have almost 3 billion euros per year from the tourists that came from other countries in our region. So it's very important for the economical growth, the tourism industry, and of course, and the ecotourism, which it's a new challenge for us.
Yes. So, Alexandre, based on your experience, what are some of the difficulties or limitations implementing ecotourism, and what do you think is the reason behind it, based on your experience?
Yes, in the field of ecotourism, we have the main difficulty and challenge that we have as a region, but also as a country in general in Greece, is that we have developed a tourism that is focused mainly on the sun and sea, as in coastal areas, and areas that do not have sea. There is immaturity in the field of tourism development. This is reflected in the institutional field, as we see that it is difficult for companies that deal mainly with agricultural sector, but also in areas that do not traditionally have tourist flows to develop the ecotourism services. A second reason is the conditions prevailing in these areas, which are of tourist interest, as they are areas protected by European law, as Natura and Ramsar legislation, and this institutional framework prevents some even mild activities from developing. So this is some difficulties that we managed to have to overcome in the field of ecotourism in our area.
I see. As Alexandros mentioned, there are many areas of Natura, and I'm sure you have many of those in Africa. You can unmute your microphone so we can hear your opinion about this. So what do you think, based on expertise, of some difficulties, limitations implementing ecotourism, and what's the reason behind it?
Well, just like Alexandros spoke about, we also have so many challenges here in Africa that we will have to overcome. And I'll say that one of the key challenges that we have is deforestation, because of course, most of our ecotourism is very much dependent on the forest cover. And once the forest is going out, it means that biodiversity in those forests are actually changing. It's definitely affecting the kinds of animals you find in the forests that are left. And I'd like to share some statistics. When you take a look at Ghana, for example, the Achimota Forest, which is one of the key spots and which has huge potential for ecotourism, actually currently has lost a lot of cover. It currently has lost about 150 hectares. That is huge for a forest cover. That's just around from 1930 up to now. And that is like really major. Once the forest cover is being lost, it means that the sort of things that we like to go and see in those forests is actually also changing. We also have challenges with infrastructure. Once we do not have the infrastructure, it does not make it so attractive for ecotourism to really thrive. So many tourist destinations, for example, in Ghana, which are ecotourism based, have very poor infrastructure, either hotels, either access routes to the place. Those are very big issues. One of the key other issue that I'll mention is illegal mining, which is one of the biggest challenges that Ghana has to grapple with now. We have so much mineral resources. Previous mineral regulations perhaps have not satisfied communities enough in terms of outcomes which have come as a result of these revenues. There's a whole lot of unemployment situation going on in these mining communities. Therefore, it's definitely is pushing some young people to go into illegal mining, which has become one of the key challenges that government after government will have to deal with. And once that is also politicized, then every other means by which we want to use to address the problem is seen as a political issue and not a national issue that has to be addressed. And so these are some of the things that I'll say are impeding ecotourism in Ghana that has to be looked at.
Undoubtedly, being a forester really hurts me when I hear about deforestation and all these things, and it's really hard to keep the balance. So, Fergus, what do you think about this and what's going on, about some difficulties based on your perspective? If you could share that kind of thoughts, that would be great. If you can unmute your microphone. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, so thank you in terms of the question. And you know, globally, I agree in that there are certainly, when it comes to protected areas and natural areas management, it's really crucial to try and maintain the borders and the buffer zones and all the other elements that help to maintain the flora and fauna, the biodiversity that attract visitors to a site in the first place. As Aditya mentioned, if there's no forest or if there's no ground cover, there's habitat for these species to exist and very little attraction for people to visit that site, the types of tourists who we hope to visit there. But I'll also, that's one sort of ongoing issue and element. But I'll also say that there's one other crucial factor that's coming in that has been emerging for a while, but is very evident right now, and that is climate change. Right now in Canada, in Western Canada on the Pacific Ocean in British Columbia, one of our 10 provinces, yesterday we had the highest temperature ever in Canada, 50 degrees centigrade. And we live in a northern climate. We live above the 49th parallel. And to even get to 35 degrees is unusual. To get to 50 is catastrophic. And what happens in terms of the provinces where British Columbia is very much of a nature preserve, we have protected areas, we have national parks, we have all kinds of wonderful sort of natural elements that are there. We now have 80 forest fires burning. Yesterday, a whole town disappeared under fire. 1,000 people who live there, all the infrastructure, all the businesses, all the operations gone completely within the space of about 24 hours. So in terms of the resources and the protected area natural heritage base that we have, climate change is a huge issue in many parts of the world, whether it's Greece, which I know has dryness and fires as well, other parts of Africa, Canada, and other parts of the world. And I think that's one of the real sort of key looming issues, or ones that we're already dealing with at this point in time.
So Fergus, speaking about this, what do you think, based on your experience, would be a key element to overcome those difficulties? Would there be an option?
Well, climate change is pretty tough to overcome. We are trying to find more ways to interact with these protected areas and natural areas as well, in a way that has less environmental impact or less environmental footprint. Whether we use electric vehicles, whether we use less water, whether we manage our waste better, how we access the site better as well, and how we try to at least maintain different levels of biodiversity as best we can. But I think at some point we have to recognize that some parts of the world, here in Canada, we have to find ways to adapt to those circumstances. And in fact, part of it is management planning in terms of fire control. We're very good about that now in Canada because we have such huge ground cover of forests that cover the northern part of the country. But at the same time, we have to recognize that there has to be some way to, you can't save everything and you can't maintain everything. You can only do the best you can. And if you're going to do so, well, how do you prioritize in terms of communities, species, people themselves? Again, planning has to be upgraded, updated, and really rethought in current circumstances.
I see. Thank you, Fergus. Alexandre, what do you, based on your experience, what do you think is a key element to overcome those difficulties, based on the political background that you have and all the northern region of Greece that you're representing? What do you think?
I believe that the key to the development of ecotourism is the creation of a clear legal framework that will allow the gentle development of areas of ecotourism interest without compromising the natural resource, and the training processes of young people who want to engage in tourism. So to create experience, to create services, new services of the experience for the modern tourism area that we want to achieve. We have the global warming, we have all the earth has the same issues. We also, as the Canada, have the same degrees. We are in the Mediterranean area. We are, this is a month, July and August, we have extremely heat. I think 45 degrees in the South Greece. We had the last 24 hours. This is something that we have global challenges to overcome. So I think we have common solutions to, because the earth it's not big. It's in our house. So I think the key to the development is to manage to achieve the measure between growth and to protect our environment, our resources. This is, I think, it will be the key for the next level of the economical growth of the global economical growth.
I totally agree, Alexander, with you. Keeping the balances in favor to the environment is hard, but it needs to be done. So, Delia, what do you think what might be, from your perspective, a key element to overcome those difficulties?
Well, I think that basically some level of education and community ownership is critical. There's a research I came across that's indicated that about 66% of community people who lived close to ecosystem, ecotourism marked areas actually felt they owned either the forest or whatever ecotourism facility was available. They felt they owned it. Now, this has to be deepened so that we do not find people stray into these areas. Once people know they own that community of ecotourism, they will protect it and they will make sure that others do not destroy it. Community ownership is critical, and community ownership will then mean that the communities will have to benefit from whatever ecotourism is going on. One of the ecotourist sites in Ghana, there was the indication that the CSIR, which is the scientific research arm of the country, will do research and give it to the managers of the community without actually having interactions with the members of the community. So the community members felt they didn't have that kind of ownership, and they definitely are the ones that can destroy the forests and can destroy the environment for ecotourism to thrive. They are the first people to do that if care is not taken. So the expectation is that community engagement is critical, and then also some level of huge education. Once people have an understanding of what these sites contribute, one, to the ecosystem itself, which they benefit, then they will protect it. I remember so well when I was young in Ghana, where we were living at the time, it actually rained small ice cubes. Today, you will not have any of that in that place. You will not. No. And apart from that, I remember so well that there were sacred mangroves that you could not touch. And a lot has changed now. Religion and everything has come so that people are no longer afraid to go into those forests and to harvest things from those forests, all of that. So the whole communication and language around these huge properties which contribute to ecotourism will have to find new messaging as a country to get to the citizens to understand why they must preserve these places.
I couldn't agree more with you. Education is one of the greatest tools in how to transfer the information. So with this, Odelia, what was the impact of COVID in Africa? Could you, as a lead person, based on your personal experience, what were some of the steps that they were implemented for the recovery of the impact of COVID-19?
Okay. COVID and its impact in Africa, especially in the tourism sector, was really devastating. We didn't have the numbers in terms of COVID numbers as compared to other countries and, of course, other continents. But we had the highest effect because of how our tourism in Africa is structured. The global data indicates that whilst North America has about 83% of its tourism being domestic tourism, Africa has 55%. And therefore, that's like a huge gap. So once tourism is not going to come also from people who are outside Africa, then definitely the hotels went down, virtually closed. But countries like Kenya, which has some good numbers of domestic tourism, have started recovering better than other countries who do not have domestic tourism as a key driver. And so for Africa, because also we do not own a lot of the infrastructure in the tourism side, the workers who actually were working in these hotels, a lot of them also lost their jobs as a result. And until the hotels really come back up and really work so hard to get the numbers back in, you definitely will not find the employment levels going as high up as it used to be. What we're currently doing is to find some stimulus packages for various sectors of the economy that have been hardest hit. And the hotel association, and then of course people within the tourism sector have also gradually been benefiting to some extent, but not much, because if a hotel was getting a revenue of $500,000 within a year, and they get a stimulus package of 40,000 cedis. I mean, that is like a mismatch. It really does nothing for that kind of a huge hotel. But people within the MSME sector may find these support systems quite helpful to survive up to a certain point. But I personally think that the efforts will have to be bigger and better than what we have been able to do so far. Stimulus packages, efforts also are being made to encourage people to do domestic tourism in the country currently. Of course, through the Tourism Authority and of course, other agencies, including the Chamber for Tourism and of course GATOF, to make sure that people are patronizing made in Ghana destinations for tourism.
I see. Thank you. Thank you, Adelia. Fergus, what is the situation in Canada? So what was the impact? Because I've had some relatives there. They're informing me about Canada. You will double check with you what's going on there. So what was the impact of COVID-19? And as a lead person, based on your professional experience, what were some of the steps that they were implementing for the recovery?
In Canada right now, it's been interesting because of the fact that apart from having a very big domestic tourism market, our largest trading and tourism partner is the United States. And since last March, there have been very severe and significant border controls. In fact, the border is not really open for visitation or tourism purposes to Canada at this time from the United States. And so to that end, in terms of tourism businesses that have had to depend upon this regular stream of American tourists, particularly during the time of the summer, which is our highest period of visitation, we've seen a lot of government stimulus, ways to support industries, ways to support employees and tourism attractions and groups. And in fact, when it comes to the ecotourism area, we have a very big Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada, very well regarded. In fact, Indigenous tourism is one of the three key pillars of our tourism programming and marketing. The challenge is that many of these tend to be remote. They tend to be in other provinces for people who try and access outside of our main provinces. And also they depend upon a steady stream of visitors during the summer. And at this point in time, we have some interprovincial controls of travel. People are reluctant to leave their home cities. And in many cases, in the reserves or the places where our Indigenous people live themselves, they're very reluctant to have people from outside come onto the reserve because they don't want to spread the COVID or the variants. So there's many sort of issues in terms of trying to maintain that aspect. On the flip side, and I think this is really important at the same time, we're seeing a real sort of sale of all kinds of recreational goods and services, whether it's kayaks, canoes, bikes, hiking equipment, climbing equipment, etc., where you go into many of our outdoor and recreational stores, you can't find anything. It's completely empty. People have just decided, if we're staying here in Canada, we want to enjoy nature, we want to get out and see the different protected areas and the natural wonders that we have, to the point that if you go to a national park in Western Canada, like Banff National Park or Jasper National Park, you can't find parking spaces. It closes off roads. It's completely impossible to get through there, and this is during the time of COVID. So at one point, on one side, we're missing the international visitation and we're missing the revenue from that. But domestically, in certain parts of the country, particularly in protected areas, you're seeing huge amounts of visitors that for sites that are being overwhelmed by numbers from large urban centers.
So maybe COVID just gave also some time to rethink and readjust a little bit of things in terms of tourism areas where to use. And Alexandre, on the European kind of aspect, as particularly for Greece, could you tell us about the impact of COVID-19 and based on your experience, because you are the person to inform us about what were some of the steps that they were implemented for the recovery and in order to boost up a little bit this kind of activity?
Of course, in our area, the effects of COVID were very strong. Tourist flows decreased by about 80% as people stopped traveling, and of course, the way of people spend their holidays changed. There is also the opportunity in this. We can develop new ways of developing tourist destinations, which do not create mass and do not focus on specific months of the year. Here in Greece, we have the summer days that are very popular for the tourists, but we have also in the winter, especially in the North Greece, which it's something different. We have the biggest mountain, the Olympus, the most famous mountain of the world.
This is my background. So, that's Mount Olympus, right there.
Yes, your background. Yes.
Yes.
So we can, in this way, we can provide alternative products based on safety, and we can achieve equal and balanced tourism development throughout our region. So this is our goals that we achieve. And I think COVID is. I think after the COVID situation, we will find a new strategic tools to manage our destinations. And the ecotourism, I think it's the future. No, it's the present, I think. Is the present.
That's right. Yeah. Couldn't agree more, Alexander. I see. And based on the scientific information, since 2000, ecotourism is considered one of the greatest land use transformation, competing even urbanization in the agricultural land use alteration. So based on your experience, just very concise and to the point, what would you consider as the key, Fergus, maybe you can enlighten us at the beginning, what would you consider as a key element that we should have in mind? One key element we should have in mind. It's hard to have one in mind, but what's the key element we should have in mind for the sustainable management of ecotourism?
I think that, that's a very good question in terms of operations, especially when many of these sites tend to be remote. Or in areas that have less services and amenities. And I think, there needs to be the two things. One is that there needs to be the full sort of 4-pillar, not the 3-pillar approach to sustainability. And that's environmental, social, economic, and cultural, because culture is a very important part when it comes to managing these natural areas. And I think that, from a standpoint in terms of the value chain, and the supply chain for ecotourism services, this should be considered throughout in terms of how you minimize the ecological footprint. And at the same time, from a World Heritage and even in a protected area standpoint, I think it's really important to ensure that those traditional environmental knowledge, those cultural elements, whether it's in Ghana, whether it's in Greece, whether it's in Canada, whether it's elsewhere, they are implemented as part of the management of that site. I mean, Adelia talked about sacred mangroves in Ghana. In Canada, we have several sites that are close by important sacred indigenous peoples' grounds and territories. Again, there has to be that balance in terms of creating these ecotourism opportunities and businesses, along with the respect and participation of local communities at the same time.
Odelia, your perspective, please share your perspective on what do you think is a key element for the sustainable management. If you can unmute your microphone.
I think that particularly in Ghana,
we can't hear you.
I said, I think that particularly in Ghana, we will have to find the means of really dealing once and for all with the issue of illegal mining, because that is actually the key thing that is eroding our forest cover, our water bodies really fast. Once we are able to win that war, every other person invading the forests through other means will know that it is a no-go area, and we all need to maintain and sustain ecotourism as a result. And so for me, illegal mining, deforestation should be one of the key things. The very first day of the 11th of June, all of us, including the president, through the Forest Commission, went out there to do some tree planting. And for me, it was a very good signal. It was received at the corporate level, at every level. If we can sustain this kind of momentum so that it goes beyond just tree planting to what has been planted already should be preserved. And as a result, then whatever ecosystems that exist in these forests are maintained and are made attractive for whoever wants to see them. That's my thought.
Yeah, undoubtedly, long-term management really secures the sustainability of those areas in order to get the best outcome. So, Alexandre, what is your opinion about the key element that we should have in mind for the sustainable management?
Yes, what we need to keep in mind is that the development in general should consist of three characteristics. Firstly, the integrated spatial approach to the development of the infrastructure. Secondly, sustainability in the part of the management of these infrastructures. And thirdly, to educate the people to solve to know the problems that created by the impairment of resources from the development. And especially without a plan in the tourist areas. All the financial tools we have at our disposal for the design and development of tourist areas are governed by the rules of sustainability, based on the constant diverse development of our tourism products. So I think if you educate the people to manage the problems that they are created, but from the development without any plan, and this is the major thing in our country, in Greece. I think we will manage to have an ecotourism for all season and in all the country in general, in all areas in the country. I think this is the key element that we have to find, the balance between the infrastructures and to protect the resources.
I see. These are very interesting points to hear from Canada to Africa to Europe. I am the one who's doing the questions, but now if you had the opportunity to ask the audience a question, and the questionnaire would be created on ecotourism in order to obtain some information worldwide on this kind of effort in order for the sustainable management of ecotourism. What would be one of the questions that you would like to be included on this questionnaire? One question in order to be answered for the wider audience. We'll start with you, Delia.
The question I will want to ask is, how are destination management organizations involving locals in the running and preservation of ecotourism?
I see. Fergus?
Well, Adelia asked my question, but I'm going.
There has to be another one.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll have to think. I'll have to think quickly. No, I think that for me, especially in Canada and I know other parts of the world, is how do you involve Indigenous peoples in the ecotourism discussion? In the International Year of Ecotourism 2002, we had 4 themes, and there were also 2 cross-cutting themes. And one of the cross-cutting themes was to involve Indigenous peoples in that discussion. And given the fact that we have the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples from 2007 and free, prior, and informed consent, I think it's really important in terms of future projects and initiatives moving forward, particularly in places where there are a lot of Indigenous people, that we have that discussion, participation, and decision-making role as well for the groups that live in and around these things.
Alexandre, your turn.
Yes. I think a good question is what is the measure between the protection of the natural environment and the sustainable development in tourism industry? I think this is a question that I have always in my mind.
Sometimes it's hard to answer those, but I'll keep those in my mind when the questionnaire is going to be created, and hopefully it's going to have a worldwide effort and input in this kind of questionnaire. So with this was Valasia Iakovoglu, the Director of Ecotourism Sector of UNESCO Chair Connect, moderating the session, The Value of Ecotourism and COVID-19. Many thanks to the organizers for this unique international event in Jakarta, Indonesia, and giving us, our panelists and me, the opportunity to introduce ecotourism under the extreme situation like COVID-19 while practicing sustainable management in favor, particularly to the environment, as well as to the locals and the tourists. Many thanks to my outstanding panelists, starting with Ms. Delia Diamoa, and who's the head of the business programming multimedia group in Ghana, going to Mr. Fergus McLaren, who's the principal of Macduff Tourism Heritage Planning and president of the ICOMOS, and of course, Mr. Alexandros Panos, who is the head of tourism sector in the region of Central Macedonia of Greece. Thank you all for being at this panel, sharing your professional experience and knowledge as relates to the value of ecotourism and COVID-19. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.